Good morning, everyone. I hope you can all hear me today. My name is Paul Bailey. I am the Business Development Manager at RS22. We are specialists in providing cyber security protection from end to end to all of our clients. Firstly, before I start, I would just like to say I hope you are and your family and friends have remained safe during the terrible virus. It is because of the COVID-19 situation we have set up the session today with our partner Sensenet. The business environment has had to adapt to a new way of working, meaning many staff are based from home. The process of setting up home workers has had to be done at speed and efficiently for all companies. This has introduced further challenges for senior IT management like yourselves. So the session today is to cover those challenges and how to overcome them. So without further ado, I shall now pass over to Peter Heron at Censornet, so introduce himself and start the presentation. So Peter, thank you. It's your show. Thank you.
Okay, cheers Paul, I really appreciate that. I'll introduce myself. My name's Peter Heron. I'm the UK Channel Manager at Sensenet, and RS22 are one of our premier partners. So I was pleased to get the opportunity to come in and present to you. And what I'm really going to cover is just a few tips around securing your remote workers and some of the standards required as well. Right, so I'd like to start by basically covering remote working standards, tips, and best practices. So with the recent outbreak of COVID-19, many businesses are implementing remote working policies. Now, during this period of uncertainty, it is more important than ever to ensure that you've got the right solutions in place to secure your workforce when working from home. In this presentation, I'll be flying through some of the standards, tips, best practices to ensure business can continue and operate effectively and securely at the same time. So just a bit of background about Sensenet as a company. So Sensenet were founded 2007. Sensenet have been a long leading force in innovative and more recently autonomous security. With more than 1,500 happy customers, we've helped protect millions of end users with a wide range of security threats. Now, whether it's securing, monitoring, user access, or proactive defense against the latest threat, Sensenet continues to deliver on our promise of unified, simplified, and autonomous security with our platform. Our leadership team brings dozens of years of experience and expertise in cybersecurity products and services, with backgrounds from companies like Symantec, IBM, Panasonic, Dell, Message Lab, Integralis, and SAS ID. Our executive team had the skills to deliver value. Our enterprise and service provider companies for over 47 countries around the world. We're pleased to claim more CASB customers than any other CASB vendor, thanks to being born in the cloud. Machine learning innovation is part of the core DNA. In fact, a unified platform uses more than 10,000 algorithms to identify threats and trigger security responses. Right, so firstly, I'd like to mention the three standards that I'm actually going to take a look at today. So I'll be referring to ISO 27001, International Standard of Information Security Management, and a couple of ones from America. This is the NIST SP 800-46 Rev 2. And again, that's Guide to Enterprise Telework, Remote Access, and bring your own device, BYOD security. And finally, it will be NIST SP 800-53 Rev.4, Security, Privacy and Controls for Federal Information Systems and Organizations. So let's kick off with the ISO 27001. Now here I've tried to highlight a number of bullet points. So looking at IS 27001, this is the international standard for information security management. And I guess many of you will be familiar with 27001 as a standard. It's not particularly perceptive in detail and depth around the technical controls that you need to implement across a given IT environment. It sets in 6 points to that specific around mobile devices and also teleworking, and 6.2 to simply states that a policy and supporting security measures shall be implemented to protect information across proceeds or stored at teleworking sites. There are other standards that are out there that are far more perceptive in terms of technical controls, payment, card industry data, security standards springs to mind. There's just a couple. NIST SP 800-46 describes 4 remote architectures. Now on this slide, we'll cover some of these as well. So first of all, we'll start with tunneling. Now tunneling, that includes the use of VPNs or virtual private networks. So SEC VPNs, which is a form of tunnel across the public internet, which is secured using encryption. There's also what we call the portals. Now portals where a user will typically have access to some sort of landing page. So that would include technology such as SLVPN access, terminal services, particularly for administrators who are carrying out remote maintenance tasks. Then you've got remote virtual desktop infrastructure. So it could be Citrix or another solution that gives users access to a familiar desktop, although that desktop is remote and centralized. Remote desktop access is also covered within the publication. We're not really going to talk very much about these technologies today, but include these like, go to your PC, you'll be familiar with, for example, or TeamViewer. Again, a lot of you will be familiar with that. Some of you will know that Sensenet's own support team use TeamViewer quite often to remote access into systems, including your endpoints that are running the center agent or troubleshooting, things like that. On this slide, I wanted to cover split tunneling. Now, split tunneling, where you've got remote users on the bottom right-hand side on the diagram, those users can access applications and data within a data center environment. They would typically do that over a VPN using tunneling, but also they're able to access the internet directly as well. If you look at Microsoft's own best practice advice for Office 365, Microsoft actually recommends, although they can't enforce direct to internet connections whenever or accessing Office 365 applications or data. Now, there are solutions, including Sensenet's own solution, that support split tunneling and are designed to work with a combination of agents on the endpoint devices that remote users are using, and also protecting applications and data when they need access to the internet, the backups, or to move data up to cloud-based CRM systems or applications written in SharePoint, for example. They can also be protected with a gateway component that resides within the data center as well. Right, now here I wanted to cover just some of the bullet points around NIST SP 800-53 Rev.4. Again here, what we've got are just some bullet points around some of the remote working and just some of the relevant controls that hopefully people will be familiar with. So in terms of remote access, SP 800-53 talks about the need to document remote access to authorize access to monitor use of remote access technology, also to use encryption. Encryption is standard within all virtual private networking solutions, whether it's IPsec, set-based or SSL-based. I think you're probably going to hear a lot from us about multi-factor authentication, and that's also called out within IA2 on this slide. The identification and authentication controls, that includes the use of passwords, obviously, but also considering whether you want to deploy certificates into endpoints, whether you want to use hard or soft tokens. So we'll talk, I'm sure, as we get into the Q&A, much more about multi-factor authentication and its importance, especially in the current climate. Another control does suggest that you might want to consider requiring remote workers to re-authenticate, particularly during remote access sessions. The document actually calls out best practices if a user online for longer than 8 hours, after 8 hours, perhaps you want to challenge them to re-authenticate, just to confirm who they are. It also talks about idle time, as well as after 30 minutes of idle time, the devices that you would challenge the end user again to authenticate. Then you've got risk assessment, okay? Now, risk assessment is important. This is going to come out in the Q&A, I hope, as well. When you're selecting one of these architectures, and when you're selecting a technology, a combination of technologies, then it's absolutely about assessing risk against the sensitivity, the confidentiality, how regulated the data is associated with a particular application is, or maybe old school, I know, stored on a file server. Essentially, somewhere on the confidentiality, the sensitivity, the level of which that data is regulated really does dictate and inform the level of security and the controls that you would need to implement. The other thing I want to cover is boundary protection. Now, with boundary protection, it's obviously important to use network segmentation to separate publicly accessible infrastructure from internal infrastructure. And that's really what we're talking about here, is remote access into what otherwise would be a private infrastructure. And lastly on this slide, there are a series of controls within SP 800-53 around transmission, confidentiality, and integrity. This is about protecting data in transit. That links back to the first consider controls of AC-17 on the slide, around using encryption, which is standard, as we say, within all virtual private networks, almost as definition. Right, so on this slide, what I'd like to cover is the secure remote working checklist. So instead, I thought I'd share the 8-point secure working checklist to highlight some of the essentials to ensure your business can continue to operate effectively and securely at this point. So we'll kick off, first of all, number 1, ensure all users' devices have endpoint antivirus installed and are up to date. That's a key factor. Number 2, review existing VPN settings and policies to ensure users only have access to the things that they're meant to have, okay? Number 3, be wary of allowing VPN access from untrusted devices. If, however, you're allowing users to work from personal devices and VPN into the office, then ensure you're posture checking these devices on your VPN solution. For example, checking they are running up-to-date antivirus. Number 4, consider enabling split tunneling for users to access the internet and applications like Office 365 directly from home, and only send specific traffic over the VPN to applications that need it, i.e. on-premise applications. These are just some of the checklist points I was covering off as well. So secure remote checklist, again, some of the things I mentioned, review your authentication process to ensure you've got adaptive multi-factor authentication, MFA, in front of your applications and any connections back to you as well. So it's key to have that. Resist short-term change, to firewall rules, which could secure posture. So it's important to cover that off as well. And again, I've just included a link to the Sensenet website where you can actually get access to the secure remote working. Now, for more advice, including this checklist and our recent on-demand Q&A, we can cover that off as well. And then what I wanted to do was just cover off just a bit about the actual product sets and technology that Sensenet offers via RS22. So again, what we've got basically are the Sensenet platform that can protect you around your email, your web filtering, your CASB web applications, and MFA multi-factor authentication. By combining email security, web security, CASB, MFA into a single platform, Sensenet overcomes the point product paradox and offers end-of-point visibility of and protection from fast-moving multi-channel threats that are so common today. I'll give you a couple of examples. Imagine an employee receives a phishing email into their Office 365 account. Now, that email security module in our platform extracts the malicious URL from that email message body, shares it with our autonomous security engine, ACE, and web security, also integrated with ACE, automatically adds it to the book list of all users into the organization. Another thing to consider, if a user uploads a file containing personal, sensitive, or regulated data to a cloud application like Dropbox or Box, then our CASB service will share the hash of the file with ACE. ACE then shares that hash out so that if a user then attempts to accelerate the same file via webmail or Slack via email, ACE automatically blocks those attempts. Threat intelligence. Threat intelligence. Multiple leading threat intelligence feeds. Core service automatically update to protect against new domains and IPs that are fishy or spammy, particularly important from the level of COVID-19 related attacks out there currently. And also, lastly, instead of each step of a multi-channel attack being executed against defenses that are isolated and uncoordinated, each requiring manual response to an alert, this solution basically takes an integrated and coordinated approach to stopping attacks from every vector simultaneously. These are some of the benefits that we have around the cloud platform solution that we have with Sensenet, we do through RS22. So just a quick insight, Paul. Thank you for your time. Thanks.
Thanks for that. Okay. Right, just to finish off, the main objective of today's session is to generate thoughts for you to consider around security for your home workers and your business. And this is to ensure that you are fully protected. So I think we've probably achieved that. Obviously, there's a lot more discussions to take place going forward, but this was just a quick example that Peter's run through of some of the challenges you face. We're now going to open up for a quick Q&A session. I'll just wait a few seconds or minutes just to see if anybody's got any hands up. So please raise your hand now and we will take any questions. Okay, I'll just wait for a short while. While we're waiting, if there are questions that appear after this session has ended, obviously just drop us an email or give us a call and we'll answer those directly. I will call every one of you in 2 days' time just to get some feedback on the session, see if it hit the mark, and if there's anything else you want us to cover in more detail, we can do that on a one-to-one basis. We will also, while people are still thinking, we will issue a link of today's presentation to each and every one of you, so you can obviously review the material again. But I'll get that out later this week as well. We are planning to do these quite regularly, probably once every 2 months, but obviously it will be a different topic for each one. We'll again welcome some thoughts if you have any particular topics you want us to cover. Okay, we've had no questions come through, so please follow up if they do appear in your mind at some stage. I'm going to close the session now, so thanks to Peter and everyone for your time today and for joining. Finally, during these difficult times, I hope you all remain safe, and we look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thanks from Peter and myself. Have a good day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks, everybody. Thanks.